While you're working overtime to pay your bills, there's an institution that pays no taxes, answers to no public accountability, and moves billions of dollars every single year. It's not a Swiss bank. It's not a tax haven in the Cayman Islands. It's the Vatican. And the story of how a religion founded on poverty and humility transformed itself into the most sophisticated financial machine on the planet is brutal, shocking, and completely real. Buckle up, because what you're about to discover in the next few minutes will make you question everything. You were taught about faith and money. The Vatican possesses an estimated patrimony of at least $15 billion. But that number is just the tip of the iceberg. Why? Because most of the Catholic Church's assets simply don't appear on public balance sheets. We're talking about properties scattered across every continent, artwork worth incalculable fortunes, investments in multinational corporations, stakes in banks, and even shares in weapons and contraceptive companies. Yes, you heard that right. The same institution that condemns birth control profits from companies that manufacture contraceptives. But let's go back to the beginning of this story. How did a religion that preaches material detachment manage to accumulate so much wealth? The answer lies in a specific event from the 4th century. When Emperor Constantine converted to Christianity, he didn't just legalize the religion. He transformed the church into part of the Roman state apparatus. Suddenly, bishops were receiving salaries from the empire, churches were getting tax exemptions, and lands were being donated in droves. It was Christianity's first major deal, and it worked perfectly. During the Middle Ages, the Catholic Church developed a financial system so advanced it would make modern bankers envious. The Knights Templar, that order of warrior monks everyone knows from conspiracy theories, were actually history's first international bankers. They created a credit system that allowed pilgrims to deposit money in a European city and withdraw the equivalent in Jerusalem. Letters of credit, international transfers, loans with disguised interest. All of this in the 12th century. And the indulgences? That scandal that triggered the Protestant Reformation. It was basically the sale of divine forgiveness. You sinned? Pay up and you're forgiven. Your relative died and is in purgatory? Pay, and they go straight to heaven. The church literally monetized guilt and the fear of eternal damnation, and it worked so well that it financed the construction of St. Peter's Basilica, one of humanity's greatest architectural works. Built with money from people terrified of hell, the Vatican Bank, officially called the Institute for the Works of Religion, was founded in 1942, right in the middle of World War II. Coincidence? Hardly. The bank was born in a period where institutions needed to move money discreetly across borders at war. And over the decades, the IOR became synonymous with financial scandals, money laundering, and ties to the Italian mafia. Roberto Calvi, known as God's banker, was found hanged beneath Blackfriars Bridge in London in 1982. His bank, Banco Ambrosiano, had deep connections with the Vatican and was involved in money laundering schemes reaching billions of dollars. When Ambrosiano collapsed, the Vatican paid $240 million to creditors, not as an admission of guilt, but as a gesture of goodwill. Goodwill or purchase silence? Here's a question for you to reflect on and comment your opinion. If Jesus Christ drove merchants from the temple with a whip in his hand, what would he do if he saw the modern church trading billions in financial markets? Think about it and leave your answer in the comments. The Vatican pays no taxes in practically any country in the world. Its properties are exempt. Its financial transactions operate under absolute banking secrecy. Until 2013, the IOR didn't even follow international anti-money laundering standards. It took massive international pressure and a series of scandals for the Vatican to begin implementing any transparency, and even then, superficially. Let's talk concrete numbers. The Vatican owns more than 5,000 real estate properties in Rome alone. In London, the Catholic Church is one of the largest commercial real estate owners in the city. St. Peter's Basilica alone receives annual contributions exceeding $100 million. Peter's Pence, that worldwide collection taken every year, raises tens of millions that theoretically would go to charity. But much of it ends up financing the Vatican administration's operational deficit. The Vatican's art collection is literally priceless. Works by Michelangelo, Raphael, Caravaggio, Leonardo da Vinci. Pieces that were confiscated, purchased, or received as donations over centuries. If the Vatican decided to sell just a fraction of this collection, it could end hunger in entire countries. But it doesn't sell. It keeps everything locked up, claiming cultural preservation, while millions of faithful go hungry around the world. And there's more. The Vatican has investments in practically every sector of the global economy: banks, insurance companies, tech firms, pharmaceutical industries. For decades, it maintained shares in companies completely contradictory to its moral teachings. In 2009, it was discovered that the Vatican had substantial investments in companies producing weapons, including components for cluster bombs. The institution that preaches peace and love was profiting from instruments of mass death. The London Palace scandal is recent and emblematic. In 2014, the Vatican invested 200 million euros in a luxury building in central London. The problem? The money passed through obscure intermediaries, included absurd commissions for financial managers close to the Vatican, and resulted in gigantic losses. When the story came to light, it revealed not just administrative incompetence, but a corruption network involving cardinals, financiers, and even investment funds in tax havens. Monsignor Giovanni Angelo Becciu, one of the Vatican's most powerful cardinals, was dismissed and lost his cardinal rights because of this scandal. He allegedly diverted funds from papal charity, money that should go to the poor, for personal investments and to pay an alleged kidnapper. The story is so bizarre it seems like a movie script, but it's real and documented in ongoing legal proceedings. The Vatican's financial structure is purposefully opaque. There are multiple administrative entities controlling different parts of the patrimony. The administration of the patrimony of the Apostolic See, the Prefecture for Economic Affairs, the Secretariat for the Economy, the IOR itself. This fragmentation isn't accidental. It's a system designed to hinder audits, hide money flows, and keep power in the hands of a few. Pope Francis, when he took office in 2013, promised to reform Vatican finances. He created commissions, appointed external auditors, fired people involved in scandals. And there has been progress, undeniably, but the fundamental structures remain. The Vatican still operates as a sovereign state with banking secrecy, still doesn't publish complete and detailed balance sheets, still maintains questionable investments. The relationship between money and religion has always been complicated. All major religions have some level of institutional wealth. But the Vatican is unique because it combines spiritual power over 1 billion Catholics with complete state sovereignty. It's literally a country within a city, with its own laws, its own currency, its own passports, and crucially, its own justice system. When financial scandals explode, the Vatican judges itself. There's no international body that can force it to be accountable. Pressure comes only from public opinion and governments threatening to cut diplomatic relations or investigate church branches in their territories. But these threats rarely materialize because the Catholic Church's political influence is immense. Let's be clear about one thing. Not all of the Vatican's money comes from obscure schemes. Much of it comes from legitimate donations from faithful, who genuinely believe they're contributing to a sacred cause. The problem isn't necessarily the origin of all the money, but what's done with it. When an institution that preaches evangelical poverty accumulates billions while millions of its followers live in misery, there's a moral contradiction that cannot be ignored. Catholic charity is real and significant. Hospitals, schools, shelters, social programs. The Church maintains a global assistance network that genuinely helps people. But the numbers don't add up. Contributions to charity represent a fraction of the institution's total resources. Most of the money goes to maintaining the bureaucratic structure, clergy salaries, property conservation, and financial investments. The Vatican's financial model has influenced other religious institutions around the world. Evangelical megachurches, especially in the United States and Brazil, have adopted similar strategies of wealth accumulation disguised as divine work. Pastors with private jets, temples that look like stadiums, multi-million-dollar media empires, all tax-exempt, all protected by religious freedom. Prosperity theology? That idea that God wants you to be rich and that donating to the church will bring financial blessings is essentially a modern version of medieval indulgences. Pay and receive, contribute and be blessed. It's the monetization of faith, pure and simple. And here's the deeper question. Does the wealth of religious institutions necessarily corrupt the spiritual message? Can an organization that possesses billions truly represent the teachings of a prophet who had nowhere to rest his head? This is the central contradiction that believers and critics face when analyzing the phenomenon of faith finances. The answer isn't simple or one-sided. There are priests and nuns living in real poverty, dedicating their lives to serving the needy. There are legitimate Catholic projects transforming communities. But these realities coexist with marble palaces, secret banks, and corruption scandals. The institution is too large and complex for easy generalizations. What we know for certain is that the Vatican operates at a level of financial secrecy that would be unacceptable for any other organization of its size. Imagine if the Red Cross or UNICEF refused to publish detailed balance sheets. There would be global outrage. But when the Vatican does exactly that, it's accepted as a prerogative of its religious sovereignty. The future of Vatican finances is at stake. The younger generation of Catholics, especially in developed countries, is increasingly skeptical of the institution. Donations are declining. Scandals continue undermining moral credibility. Pope Francis knows this, and that's why he tries to implement reforms. But he faces massive resistance from the old guard that has controlled the purse strings for decades. The brutal truth is that the Vatican functions like any other power entity. It has its political factions, its internal lobbies, its struggles for resource control. The difference is that all of this happens under the mantle of spiritual authority, which makes any criticism automatically controversial and even dangerous for those who make it. This script isn't an attack on Catholic faith or Catholics individually. It's a critical analysis of how institutional power and money corrupt organizations, even those founded on principles of love and sacrifice. The same analysis could be done about other religions, about governments, about corporations. The problem is universal, but particularly shocking when it involves institutions claiming to represent divine values. The sacred bankers exist. They wear cassocks instead of suits, operate in Renaissance palaces instead of glass skyscrapers. But their transactions are as real and brutal as those on Wall Street. The difference is their profits aren't taxed, their decisions aren't publicly scrutinized, and their mistakes are forgiven in the name of a higher mission. Meanwhile, faithful around the world continue donating their money, believing they're contributing to God's work, and maybe they are. But a significant portion of that money ends up financing a gigantic bureaucratic apparatus, questionable financial investments, and in some cases, the pure and simple corruption of people who should be guardians of morality. The history of the Vatican and its finances is the story of how human institutions, even when they start with the best intentions, eventually become corrupted by power and wealth. It's the story of how faith can be transformed into a commodity, how the sacred can be profaned by those who should protect it. It's above all a reminder that no institution, however venerable or ancient, is above criticism and accountability.